I'm Donald Trump, and this is a special announcement. Mike Huckabee is not going to be running for president. This might be considered by some people, not necessarily me, bad news, because he is a terrific guy, and frankly, I think it'd be a terrific president. But a lot of people are very happy that he will not be running.
Yeah, but then a little more than 36 hours later, there was Donald Trump again announcing that he would not be running either, to the surprise of absolutely no one other than the mysterious people who vote in Republican Party straw polls this time of year.
And then everybody said, hey, how about you, man? What's your story? I mean, you said, for example, if Obama released his birth certificate, that you'd release your financial records. What happened? No, I'm trying to figure out what happened because I don't see your financial records. And that is ultimately exactly why Trump left. Exactly what I told you guys.
That last time, it did well, didn't it?
That's right.
How do you put together the opposition party, Republican Party, a regular political party to the right of the other party, with an absolute protest, screw you party? How do you put it together?
Empty suit like Pawlenty with a frothing loon like Michelle Bachmann, because that's what they need
That's the mix.
Right. They will have to unite the party that way.
Newt Gingrich is, I guess you could say, blowing the racist dog whistle again.
President Obama is the most successful food stamp president in American history, and he's proud of it.
How do you know, Newt? Have you ever asked him?
Do you think that Republicans ought to buck the public opposition and really move forward to completely change Medicare, turn it into a voucher program where you give seniors some premium support and so that they can go out and buy private insurance?
I don't think right-wing social engineering is any more desirable than left-wing social engineering. I don't think imposing radical change from the right or the left is a very good way for a free society to operate. So there are things you can do to improve Medicare.
But not what Paul Ryan is suggesting, which is completely changing Medicare.
I think that is too big a jump. I think what you want to have is a system where people voluntarily migrate to better outcomes, better solutions, better options, not one where you suddenly impose upon you. I'm against Obamacare, which is imposing radical change, and I would be against a conservative imposing radical change.
Let's first dissect what Newt said. Did he just, Mark Halperin, call Paul Ryan's health care plan radical?
He said the Republican plan went too far.
Yeah.
He's the first major Republican figure to not only not embrace Ryan, but to repudiate Ryan.
He not only distanced himself from Ryan's plan, which I understand, is he repudiated it almost entirely.
He called it radical.
He called it radical. He is out in the left wing of the Republican Party on the most crucial, I think, economic issue besides the economy itself.
I've got to say, this confirms my biggest concern about Newt Gingrich over the past 15 years, that rhetorically he's far, far right, but when push comes to shove, he's in the mushy middle.
I am not going to justify this. I'm not going to explain this. The attack on Paul Ryan, the support for an individual mandate in health care. Folks, don't ask me to explain this. There is no explanation.
If you are trying to become the Republican nominee for president, that is not the impression you are looking to make. Last month, Mr. Gingrich told Time magazine that he liked the Paul Ryan kill Medicare budget. He said he would vote for it, but it didn't go far enough. Then this weekend on Meet the Press, Mr. Gingrich said the Ryan plan went too far, and he's therefore against it. On the same program, Mr. Gingrich affirmed that he not only likes the idea of an individual mandate in health reform, but he has liked that idea for decades.
Newt Gingrich's problems are so far beyond just his multiple marriages and all that. His ethanol love affair right now. On 7th of March, he said, let's go get Gaddafi. On the 23rd of March, he says, I never favored intervention. He did it on television.
On us.
Yes, exactly. He's one of these people who says that to understand Barack Obama, you need to understand his Kenyan anti-colonial mentality. And this is just not a serious thing. I think we know with reasonable certainty that standing up there on the west front of the Capitol on January 20th, 2013 will be one of three people, Obama, Pawlenty, and Daniels. I think that's it.
First of all, you gave a speech in Georgia with language a lot of people think could be coded racially tinged language, calling the president, the first black president, a food stamp president.
This kind of automatic reference to racism, the President of the United States has to be held accountable. Now, the idea that, and what I said is factually true, and to hide behind the charge of racism.
You see, being from the South, you know what these code words are all about. And to say something about food stamps is not about white folks. It's about black folks. There's no question about it. Newt can't play the victim on this one. Gingrich has used racially tinged language about President Obama before. Like last September, Newt told the National Review Online, what if Obama is so outside our comprehension that only if you understand Kenyan anti-colonial behavior can you begin to piece together his actions? This is a person who is fundamentally out of touch with how the world works, who happened to have played a wonderful con, as a result of which he is now president. I suppose that's not a racial slur either, or a insinuation in any way, shape, or form, is it? Last August, John Richardson of Esquire reported Newt told a group of businessmen, the more angry we get, the worse it is for Obama. I don't care how many three-point jump shots he makes. What a slap in the face. Gingrich, of course, is hell-bent on election. He just wants to cut these 44.2 million Americans who currently use food stamps to give tax breaks to old white millionaires. That's his priority. If Gingrich has his way on food stamps, you know who it's going to hurt? African Americans, women and children, and millions of low-income families. The Republican Party still can't win on issues, so their only chance is to play the race card again.
What is an actual liability for Mitch Daniels in campaigning for the Republican nomination for president is an interview that he gave to the Weekly Standard last year, that Republicans are going to have to declare a truce on social issues, to not campaign on social conservative matters, at least for now, because there are more important things for the country to work on. That really is a problem for him in terms of campaigning for the still abortion-obsessed and homosexuality-obsessed Republican activists of this year and next year. And so as the governor of Indiana, Mitch Daniels is trying to rectify the political problem that he's got. He is trying to reestablish his social conservative bona fides by doing something that, when you look at the rest of the country, is pretty radical. For all of the demagoguing and talking smack about Planned Parenthood and abortion rights happening on the political right this year, Mitch Daniels actually did something that no other state has done and that the federal government has not done. He blocked essentially all public funding, even federal funding, from going to any of the 28 health centers in his state that are run by Planned Parenthood. This is not blocking taxpayer funding for abortion. They already don't get taxpayer funding for abortion. What he's done is made it so that nobody in his state who is on Medicaid can go to Planned Parenthood for anything.
That's great. By the way, ending Medicare as we know it, making senior citizens pay 68% of the costs by the time we get to 2030. That's not radical. Turning it into a voucher program where they give you a tiny voucher that only covers about a third of the cost and then say, hey, you're on your own. That's not radical. But I love that they think Newt Gingrich is too soft. He's too much of a liberal. Okay, you know what? Let me tell you some of the things that Newt Gingrich has said. He just said that Obama is the most successful food stamp president in modern American history. Gee, I wonder where that's coming from. He also said that Obama has a Kenyan anti-colonial behavior. Gee, I wonder what that means. Okay, oh, that guy's from Kenya, and he's the food stamp president. But Gingrich is too liberal, okay, because he thought ending Medicare as we know it is a little too far, a bridge too far. The thing is, it's not that Gingrich doesn't want to end Medicare. He'd love to end Medicare. He tried ending Medicare back in the 1990s, but he realizes it's not popular. So he's just trying to do something that might get him actually a couple of votes in a general election.
Or let's bring in Michael Eric Dyson, professor of sociology at Georgetown University, and Joan Walsh, editor-at-large for Salon.com. Great to have both of you with us tonight. Professor Dyson, do you think calling President Obama the food stamp president is racist? What do you think?
Well, it's certainly part of a racial pattern. You don't have to have a racial intent to have a racial consequence to communicate a racial meaning. And I think that here, Newt Gingrich is fully aware, as a sophisticated American historian, or at least a putative student of American history, to understand the code language there, welfare queen, the association of food stamps and being on the dole of the public with African American people, with poor Latino people, and for that matter, with poor people who are white in Appalachia. But I think think here it's quite clear by calling the first black president a food stamp president, he gets to knock the ball out of the park 2 or 3 times. He gets to knock out several birds with one stone. He can appeal to the Republican conservative base. He can suggest that these tax cuts he wants to put in place, 35% for corporate taxes reduced to 12%, should be in place. And then he can give corporate welfare, if you will, to those who are rich. And then he can also suggest that he's tough on African-American people who are on the dole who don't deserve it. It's the undeserving poor that he's getting at here. And we all know that circulates mostly around the bodies of poor black women and their children. Yeah. And Newt Gingrich knows better than that.
Well, you know, I do think that it has racial implications. You know, there is a long history, as Michael says, of associating welfare with black people. Ronald Reagan, that sunny, genial figure, used to talk about welfare queens driving Cadillacs and even strapping young bucks buying steaks with food stamps. So there's that history. There's Rush Limbaugh, as soon as the president got elected, insisting that his stimulus bill, his unemployment increases, and his health care proposals were reparations to black people for slavery, a controversial issue for sure. So, and you know, you also, if it were just the food stamp president, maybe we could give him a pass. Yeah. But you know, you only missed a couple things, Ed. He also said that this president only knows how to turn us into Detroit, make us like Detroit, a distressed African-American city. And he also made this crazy reference, I believe in the same speech in Georgia, saying that this election is as important as 1860, which is when we elected Abraham Lincoln, which led the South to secede over slavery. I don't know what other association with 1860 anybody could have sitting in Georgia. So it's a string of racial dog whistles that adds up to, it doesn't even feel like coded racism anymore. It feels like racism.